Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Maritime Security Talk. Tonight we have another special guest, and we'll get introducing him in a little bit. This is Season 1, Episode 3. And just like we have done with all of our previous shows, we are expressing our own personal opinions, and these opinions do not necessarily reflect our past, current, or future employers. So, just in case they're listening, it's all about us tonight. So, and if you're watching on YouTube, there's that little button somewhere over here, I think. But click on it, it says like. It's a thumbs up. And then there's somewhere down there also a subscribe. Maybe it's up there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're not looking to make any money off of this, but it's an ego booster for us. All right.
Gives us credit with the kids.
Guess what? We'll actually post this onto LinkedIn. I know it's crazy, but we do. And if you're watching on LinkedIn, give us a thumbs up or a like, and be able to share this if it's something of interest. So tonight we have a couple of our normal routine cast of characters here: myself, Mike, Marco, Julio, Nick. And in the middle, Hollywood Square style, is Robert Renzulli. So he gets to be the one that throws the X or the O and throw the whole show out of whack. So, and probably a lot of people don't know who Hollywood Squares is, but fortunately, we're all old enough to know.
Yeah, I was gonna say that gray.
The gray is giving it.
Mike's in Hollywood. What?
Mike and I don't understand what that means.
Mike's a baby. Julio's a baby. Yeah,
you're not that much younger than me, Julio.
I do have gray though.
Oh, that's painted
in. It's painted in.
Hey, I got some of that too. Actually, this side.
No, you got a lot of it.
That looks like a little bit of ash from your cigar on the side.
Yeah.
So tonight we're gonna talk about one of the latest and greatest things that have come across my desk since Microsoft Word.
Wow.
Go back
Lotus
to Word Perfect.
At least go
Lotus
OneNote. I mean, Word. Go to OneNote at least.
No, Word Perfect. Yeah. I mean, we're going back. We're going way back.
If this is back 1996 or something.
Punch card. Hang on.
Punch card.
Commodore 64.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm looking for a COBOL programmer, so if anybody.
Yeah. Good luck. I took that
exactly.
class about eons ago.
$1 million.
So tonight, we'll get one of the CISA has released something called the Vulnerability Catalog, and in my opinion, it's better than JCPenney and Sears catalogs of the past combined. But no pictures, and that has been a problem for Mike. But so I mean, what we're going to do is let's talk about the catalog and what it could potentially mean for Coast Guard use potentially, and what it definitely means for facility that is regulated. And so in my opinion, and we'll start off there. My opinion is I think it's a good place that I could show Coast Guard, hey, I've got a federal resource and I'm using it, so you can't hit me on anything else because the feds produced it. Thank you, sis. I appreciate it. That's why I said it's better than Sears, because I can't use Sears for anything anymore besides they're out of business. So, I mean, what do you guys think? All right, on to the next topic.
I think it helped. I think it helped our FSA. And because so when it first came out, we were in the process of developing our most recent FSA, of course, right?
Facility security assessment for those that.
Yeah. Sorry.
You're right, because in the military we call those food service attendants.
Yeah, exactly.
When you say military, you're talking about Navy, because we don't talk. We just call them cooks.
No, I see Marines being FSA too.
I don't know what that is. We just call them cooks. But anyway, so
well, you never went to the break, Mike, so that we know of.
that you know of.
The catalog. So getting back to the catalog.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Thank you, Marco.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
No, seriously. So I get this note from Chris saying, "Hey, you got a minute?" So we talk. And he's like, "Hey, this catalog thing just came out. Found out we had these vulnerabilities, and the bottom line of it is we were kind of going back and forth as to how we're gonna define vulnerabilities in our FSA for cyber inclusion, right? And what we're gonna list in there, and it gave us a good tool to be able to reference, at least if nothing else. So we didn't include all the vulnerabilities that were identified in the catalog in our FSA, but it gave us something to point to, which we didn't have before.
Yeah, I think the other thing of goods about it is these are not just vulnerabilities that are just vulnerabilities, because there's a ton of vulnerabilities out there. We go through tens, 20s, thousands of them a year, right? This is just a list of like 200 or 300 or so that are actively being exploited right now. Gotcha. So it means that somebody's put some intelligent thought behind putting the list together.
So you mean somebody listened to our last podcast and say, you know what, maybe we need to share stuff, not like now instead of 9 months from now when it's no longer being exploited?
Sure, I'll take credit.
Why not?
I mean, we all should.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the key is, just like anything else, there's so much noise out there, and there's so many different, common vulnerability exposure databases that are out there. And what I appreciate about this is, I think, Chris, as you mentioned, they've done the due diligence to kind of break down those high or critical, common vulnerabilities and exposures so that you can actually hone in and focus on patching those. I think another thing, there was another document that came out earlier this month around chaining, meaning using multiple vulnerabilities to gain access to a particular target once they know what solutions or technology have been deployed there. So I think this is a great step forward. And I've already recommended it to some of my other associates to add that into their FSP and their FSA, and both on the MTS, regulated, unregulated, as well as other ports. So I want to see where it goes, though. I hope they continue to maintain and put that time and effort into it.
I mean, they did. They gave us the second update here.
Well, it's brand new, so yeah.
I mean, it's been 2 weeks and there's already an update. I'm already behind.
So this rough crowd is actually admitting or saying that the federal government did something right. Is that what I heard?
No, I think what he's saying is that they can copy paste it. I think what he's saying is they can copy paste for every year they're audited.
Exactly.
Keep adding the vulnerabilities into it as it show evidence of success.
Notice the first word that he said in his response was no.
We'll just wait to see what it looks like in a year. It's right now at 200 something or 300, and if it's up to like 10,000 next year, the list, it's about useless at that point.
It'll be mothballed, and it'll be a new initiative by then.
Yeah. I gotta say, Rob remind me of that scene on We Were Soldiers. When they're all getting hit from every single side, and Cordell Moore, the radio guy is going crazy trying to transmit, "Hey, we're getting hit this way and that way," and nobody can understand what's going on. And all of a sudden, Cordell Moore just stands up, bullets flying over him, and he goes, "Listen, I need to just chill out and just communicate and pass the right information so we can defend ourselves," right? And I think that's what kind of cyber vulnerabilities and cyber attacks feel these days. It's like we're getting hit in every single direction. I think at some point we need to regroup, chill out, let the bullets fly, and just focus on what needs to get done, right?
Yeah, and what you just described was a ransomware event too. Right? I mean, you step outside your office and you look around, and you see your heads popping up like Meerkat Manor, right? Or gophers popping up out of a hole, and you're like, you have that sensation of everything flooding at you, right? I'm going to give the Coast Guard a little credit, and probably not a great movie, or maybe it is or not, but The Guardian.
I love that.
And if you've seen it, I like it a lot. But I've done a lot of briefings on what happened back in 2018. I was at an organization that was hit by SamSam. when I describe it to those that haven't been through it, that aren't veterans of it, I will basically use that scene in the sea cave where they're going to rescue those two kayakers. And it's like, hey, would you want to be in that cave with all that gear on and safety and feeling like prepared, or would you just be in there with a boogie board and a bathing suit, right? And when a ransomware hits you and kind of floods in, and yeah, you get help that comes in eventually, but CVEs is left of boom. How can we prevent this from happening? I think.
Sorry, what's CVE again?
So it's common vulnerabilities and exposures.
Got it. Okay.
Good job, Mike.
Yeah.
I forgot my crayons today, Mike. I'm sorry. I owe you some.
We need like we need an acronym slap sound or something.
Yeah, no kidding.
Stop using acronyms.
I know it's all good. Like I understand a lot of it, but y'all all cyber oriented and stuff. I'm a physical guy.
Yeah.
We can tell you work out, Mike. We can tell you work out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I would say for this though, I mean, just like anything else that that's being pushed out, it's not just how useful is it to organizations like, you, Chris, and Mike have between yourselves, where you have somebody, Chris, very cyber savvy, cyber experienced, and can communicate with somebody over on the physical security side and kind of translate that for them. I think the other side of it that we have to look at with any kind of these documents that come out is, how does this translate to the people that don't have that cyber expert on board as part of their staff? And, how can we get that part of it? Because, we joke about it not being the Sears catalog and not having pictures, but I mean, honestly, how are they going to be able to translate this? If somebody says, oh yeah, you need to look at this catalog, and somebody just pulls it up, where do they even start with something like that? And I think that's maybe where these type of documents that the government is pushing out, that's where we're kind of missing the mark, is how do we relate it to people that don't necessarily have either the training themselves or, quick access to somebody that does have that training. I guess that's my thought with these things. It's great to have it out there, but if people don't know how to utilize it, then how much does it really help too?
Nick,
that's a great point, Nick.
Go ahead.
It's a very great point. And I think that, it's going to be the same thing that these little smaller organizations that don't have the cyber expertise, that they're going to have to do like they did for IT. And they're going to have to probably hire somebody out to sit there and provide them assistance. That's that's going to end up becoming a cost of doing business.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you brought up those points, because I was actually talking with an FSO today that has a relatively small facility. It's basically one dock. They have vessels that call on them maybe once a week, every other week, something like that. And the funny thing is he was actually called to say, hey, can you help me out with my FSA, because I just got a quote and it's going to be $9,000, right? And it's relatively high for a fairly small operation. And he's just getting into the development of his FSA, not even cyber. So, we talk about and on top of that, he's also the operations manager. So he's got very limited experience in the FSO world, the security world to begin with. And then you pile cyber on top of that, and he's going to have to spend God knows how much to be able to translate all this stuff, so it's a mammoth task for somebody that has nothing to do with cybersecurity and also is still just getting used to the security world. I mean, I literally told him, I said, look, first thing you might want to think about is go to the regs, start taking notes on every single site in the in the 105, 305 area. Just take notes, and then from there you can build on it. And once I get done with mine, then I'll help you out. You know what I mean? But I mean, seriously, think about it. Less than $10,000 to help create or to help develop an FSA, and that was high, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a really small organization, so of course they're not going to have, they're trying to make money still, so they're not going to have $10,000 to spend on just a physical security assessment, let alone incorporating cyber into the mix.
Well, I think, Mike, you bring a good point, and so I got two things to say about that. One, I was actually yesterday sitting on a advisory council for a.
I'm sorry
I'm
for
gonna,
that, council.
I'm gonna. No, I'm gonna.
I was there too, I think.
Yeah, you
Oh,
were in there
really
too.
sorry. I'm really
Hold
sorry.
on,
for
I
that,
was on the
council.
TV screen.
I'm not gonna name it, but let's call it ex college, and
There you
they're
go.
bringing people from industry and government and trying to figure out what their next curriculum should look like for cybersecurity. And one of the big things that was discussed is the need to be able to have some quick, kind of like on the spot training for people to understand the basics during the implementation of this, and also, how important it is to have not only understand cyber, but understand what cyber means in your industry, right? So the healthcare industry, cyber looks a little different than it looks in the maritime environment, which is different how it looks in a ship, which is different how it looks in the oil and gas industry. You're all different ICS, industrial control systems, and specific systems for each industry. But then too, for those people that don't have um, the ability to understand or the money for an FSA, you also have. This is one thing that I think CISA does well is the cybersecurity advisors come in and they kind of do an assessment with you on the cyber side. So that kind of helps. That helps those organizations that don't have the funding to be able to pay for, a contractor to come in and do it for them. I'm not
Okay,
saying
yeah.
it's.
How
I'm not
many
saying
people
it's
Does
do
that
you are there?
translate into compliance with 33 CFR though? You know what I mean?
At a minimum, it's going to give you a baseline of, and I'm pretty sure if you talk to the CSA and you say, hey, this is the regulation that we got to meet. Can you kind of evaluate me and tell me, a lot of the stuff that's on the Coast Guard cyber assessment part, it is covered on the basic cybersecurity assessment that CISA does. And the good thing is those basic assessments that those facilities will need, those are done by your local cybersecurity advisor. So they're fairly quick to be completed, fairly easy to schedule. We don't have to put in a ticket and wait for some contractor at headquarters and get you in a queue of 1,000 people, right? You're only getting in the queue of whatever that CSA's got going on. So, that's what
a
they're
high
there
level,
for.
right? That's a high level.
Right. That's it. It's looking at your strategies, looking at your policy. They help you understand what kind of system do you actually have. Do you have a flat system? How complicated it is? Right.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's not like a full pen test or deep dive
absolutely.
assessment, right?
But I think it goes right along with the level of knowledge that some of these companies have. Right. Like I can understand simple policy and the 1,000-foot view, and a lot of times that's where you need to start, right?
Well, you have to understand what your business is and what you're doing.
Right.
And I think to kind of address all three of your points, Nick, I think you're spot on. I think cyber tends to be magic, right? When we talk about cybersecurity, a lot of the time, I think from a lot of vendors, because they want to make money, they will treat it as if it's some magical thing. But really, it's just common sense. It's efficiency. It's making sure that your systems are operating nominally. But I think there's a key education component. I don't know about you guys if you're familiar with the InfoSec circle, but you have your red teams, your blue teams, your purple teams. So a blue team for me, traditionally in any organization I've been in, is not in InfoSec. It's actually in the information technology group. And that means these are IT professionals. So that's network systems admins that are trained up enough to understand how to apply patches, emergency patches, how to mitigate and block and prevent some of these common vulnerabilities and exposures. And then, from there, it makes it easy for my infosec team to be more on the hunt side of it, looking for our adversaries, making sure that they're taking a look at the environment. And again, not all organizations, I think, to all of your points, have that. A lot of the time, it's the director of information technology with security added on as another additional task that they have to do, and they've never been through any real formal training. They may understand the systems and the network and the environment really well, but they don't understand intrusion. They don't understand, tactics and techniques that are being used by our adversaries to get into the environment, like chaining CVEs. And then I think, Mike, to your point, some of the challenges are our education. How can maybe CISA use the portal to then also provide some level of education, right? So not just put CVEs out there as a source to go and search for those that know, but also have some education. I mean, they put out some really nice bulletins, I thought, that did a pretty good job of explaining what it would be used for. So I've actually passed that along to some of my clients and some other organizations, and it gives them context. It gives them an idea of how to actually use the tool, and I think that is kind of what's missing from the portal itself. And then, Julio, to your point, I know. So I presented up at Marsec West a couple months back, and I was up there and I met with the new lieutenant commander over the cyber protection teams. So they have one already built. They're building out a second one. I think it's supposed to come out in 2021 or 2022 for, I think it's the West Coast. So they're trying to figure out where they're going to kind of home that one, if it's going to be Washington State or down here in California. But I know that his team got training from CISA in order to do the assessments. So at least there's a commonality or a foundation there. And then I was on a discussion earlier today with one of the CG offices, Coast Guard offices. And we really want to kind of figure out how to develop something that is baseline CISA, but starts to lean towards kind of that unique maritime, environment, and make sure that those cyber protection teams that come in to do the assessments, or once they really start hiring some of those cyber, I forgot what they're calling them now, the cyber analysts. I know they have a physical version of the protection, the civilians. But anyway, once they start doing that, they can at least come in and provide not just the assessment, but some guidance, right? So to really, you don't come in as an auditor, you're actually coming in to help them mature and become more resilient. So it's actually a positive, not a, hey, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to ding you, which has been kind of the,
that's
unfortunately,
the
stereotype, right?
Yeah, that's Coast Guard. You're coming in to,
Yeah, you're going to find me $10,000 for a physical security breach, or something along those lines. But I think they're starting to catch on. They need to get away from that.
Well, and I think that the Coast Guard over time has done a really good job with that. I remember back in the day, 2003, 2004, when MTSA was coming online. I don't think we were going out and finding people and just giving them tickets and stuff like that. There was a period, I want to say probably like 2 or 3 years at the very beginning, where we would go out and we teach people and say, hey, this is what you need to change. Here's what you need to do. And eventually we'll give a ticket. If I told you need to fix A, B, and C 10 different times over a year, eventually I'm going to give you a ticket, right?
Because flashbacks to being a father there. I gave you 3 warnings, but
I was about to say 10. That's really generous.
I'm gonna say 10, man. You're
depends on which port you're in.
Well, I was in Puerto Rico, so there's the Coast Guard way, there's the D7 way, and then there was the San Juan way, and we were pretty flexible.
And then there's the Julio way.
Yeah,
even more flexible.
Even more flexible.
Nice. Not making a comment on that.
So. Rob, I mean, you and I were kind of members of a unique club of CISOs that have been in the line of fire and dodged some bullets and whatnot. So, I'd be interested to hear what you could share, what you think some good lessons learned from your experience was. And you and I have talked, and what my story back, was about with mine, how things might have improved since yours.
Yeah, definitely. The challenge with ours, so this was 2018. We were the last victim of a chain over 4 years of 200 organizations that were hit by this adversary. City of Atlanta was one of them, some hospitals. It was a big deal. These guys were very good at what they do, very sophisticated. They hit us in 2018, September. They brought down all of our administrative capabilities, yet the operations of the organization continued. And the reason why that happened, and this is about 640 employees, 12 facilities, spread out with 5-member cities bordering, the area of operations, was because we were able to, this is going to sound really strange, go back to sticky notes, go back to pen and paper, go back to chalking the bulk cargo that came in, going back to pads, non-electronic devices. Yeah, I mean, so I think the key here is old school isn't always necessarily the bad thing. I know I hear a lot about legacy legacy technology and things like that. Technology, yeah, I can kind of see because it causes forced complexity in your environment. But I'm joking, but I'm not. Part of the legacy technology in the environment that I was in, I think, confused our adversaries. To be honest with you, they were like, "What the heck is this?" And it gave us the breathing room and the time to actually collect enough forensics to lead to an indictment in November of that same year of 2 Iranian nationals. So it's worth the time and effort to have a backup plan. Make sure that old school is available so you can continue operations. And when I say this isn't just business. This is public safety. This is the health and safety and welfare of your employees. This is much bigger than just the financial impact that organizations worry about, and that's why I get furious, and I probably usually get in trouble on panels that I'm on when I basically say, "Don't pay the ransomware. Don't do it." I just some real simple statistics from 2018 to now. Proof of decrypt, meaning the adversary sends you a ransom note digitally on your machine, says pay $30,000 in Bitcoin. That's what it was in 2018. On average now, it's 250 to $500,000 to prove that they have the decryption key. That's how lucrative it has been in 3 years. I mean, it's crazy to me.
I think this show's over. I gotta go find me a new job.
Hey, Chris, you hiring?
Yeah.
He's selling
the thing is
insurance.
now it's all
Hey,
You're worried about
selling
government
insurance.
listening
I
before
don't
they're
need to
listening
have
now,
I don't need to
man.
have any
You can be
knowledge
the
now
number
to
one
be a
suspect, Chris.
ransomware man.
oh, okay, yeah. Well, that's why I have to tell stupid dad jokes and really bad cyber jokes because people are usually in tears by the time I'm done going through everything. But the hope is and the light at the end of the tunnel, which is not an oncoming train, is that we have gotten more indictments. I have seen more organizations implementing the collection of forensics as part of their incident response plan.
Yep.
There's a lot of incident response plans that are so focused on recovery that they forget to collect forensics evidence. That's critical. That was
a key piece for mine.
Yeah.
In my incident, whereas I was able to sit there and turn over, evidence so that somebody could go and chase it down and make an actual determination of who was behind it. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's
without that preservation, you're doing something for nothing.
yeah. We had their entire toolkit. We had their scripts. We had unexploded ordnance. So I actually had stuff that was undetonated that we were able to provide to the FBI forensics lab. But that's just because I was trained in it,
Hey,
right?
hey,
Not every
Rob,
organization is going to have that.
Rob, sorry, real
Yes.
quick. Can you elaborate on that unexploded ordnance in the cyber realm? Because when you say that
Sure.
to a Marine, I have a totally different thought.
Actually, it's not. I'm a bit equals an atom guy. So physical and digital really is not that different. So when you think unexploded ordnance, you have it correct, which is they have the delivery package sitting in memory and they have not detonated it in order to actually encrypt that entire system.
Okay.
So it is basically a weapon that's sitting there in memory, but has not done its job. It's not exploded.
Yeah,
Or dead.
basically it's been frozen in time.
That's exactly it, and that's what we did is we froze it. And as soon as
So
we
y'all are kind of in essence also acting as EOD techs at that point.
that's exactly what we're doing.
I'm
Is
gonna
we're
put that on
making
my
it,
resume.
yeah,
There you go. There you go.
we're
EOD
digital EOD, right?
Hey,
Oh,
I mean, no, seriously, because if you think about it, that analogy that you just gave, it as long as it's put into context, could also kind of help guys like me, the physical security guys, understand the severity and understand
Exactly.
how it all plays out, right? So if you got this unexploded ordnance just sitting on your server, I guess, and somehow it gets triggered, now you're done. But if you've got
Right.
the proper training and proper planning and everything else, you can, like you said, freeze, send out the EOD text, and now you can dispose of that properly so that you don't have those issues. You don't have blown up servers, essentially.
Well, not only that, but you disarm, and by disarming, you're also able to identify, right? I mean, I'm a Desert Shield, Desert Storm vet.
Oh,
Unfortunately,
damn, I didn't realize you were that old.
Yep.
Oh,
Thank you. All right. Well, now I'm gonna really have to date myself. I fought
Don't
the
insult the
Russians.
guests, Mike. That's
Yeah.
rule number one.
I fought the Russians actively for 3 years.
Hey, well, this isn't my first time meeting him. We're cool.
Yeah, it's not. Well, they got a weird acronym, but spell them. But anyway,
What?
the Soviet military liaison mission, long before your time.
Got it.
But yes. So yeah, I fought those guys for about 3 years over in Europe. Anyway,
Don't insult this.
but
My bad, man.
IEDs, one of the key things about IEDs to tie back right in the physical space and the kinetic space, by disarming them, you're able to really start to identify who the bomb maker is.
Right.
You're able to identify, if it is one of any given terrorist organization or a nation state actor, right? That is maybe providing, weapons grade, technology or next gen rather than, gum and duct tape and, some copper wires somewhere.
Hey, that gum and duct
people are
tape worked
creatures of
pretty well
habit.
during
Yeah.
the last war. That gum and duct tape worked pretty well during the last war.
Oh, it does now.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I've been evaluating drones. That's part of what I do.
Ooh,
in
that's
my
a
work.
whole nother topic. That's
Yeah.
a whole nother.
I'm
That's
not
a
even
whole
gonna go
other
there.
podcast.
But to circle back, I think digitally there's a lot of forensics that you can collect. We ended up being the last victim of the 200 and something victims that these two individuals, targeted and were effective against. I think another key thing, and I heard somebody mention cyber insurance earlier, and I think before we started the live stream here, the thought of cyber insurance and claiming it was an act of war, right? So that's we're starting to see that more and more in cyber insurance, agreements essentially. How do you differentiate, right? So the two individuals that hit us were nationals of a hostile nation towards us that we've engaged with in armed conflict at certain times. So that forensics becomes even more critical because you can now start to fingerprint, and the FBI can say this is not being used by APT 37 or 39 or, pick one of those advanced persistent threat groups. So now you have proof from a federal agency that you can go back to your cyber insurance and say, listen, these were two bad actors doing their thing, right? This was not a nation state. Now, a nation state may be aware of what they're doing, but it is not a targeted act of war. It is complete extortion, blackmail, whatever you want to call it, ransomware.
So, I mean, how do you distinguish between act of war and, especially in the cyber realm? I mean, it's easy when you're throwing a 500-pound bomb over the, over the border, right?
There's that $1 question.
Yeah, this is my opinion. Just with my background, I've worked counterintelligence as well. And we've all probably been hearing about, and some of you may not have, killware. Right. So we've gone from ransomware to killware. And when there is not an extortion, there's not a blackmail, there's not, a threat of releasing all of your exfiltrated data out onto the dark web and demanding payment for it, but it is actually designed to destroy, to impede first responders, to disrupt hospitals. To me, that right there is an act of war. Be it organized crime that was hired by a nation state to do it, or a nation state actually, perpetrating it themselves.
Like Flame, right?
Yeah,
If you remember Flame?
Yep, that's exactly it. So,
Flame?
You want to cover that, Marco?
Oh,
Give me some
go
talk
ahead.
time. Come on.
So it was just another wiper. It was a killware. Wipe out the machines, leave it to where it's and so 30,000 machines in Saudi were pretty much wiped clean. So what is your backup, restore, and recovery for 30,000 boxes, right?
They have to actually go out and buy all of them, replace them all.
So that's the thing: is what do you do? What is your restoration plan, and how far, how deep, and how wide did this actually go? Does it go down into your operational technology? So rumor has it that no, it never touched it. And then you talk to some people, it's like, yeah, we had some stuff. So but killware is the buzzword that we're hearing now, and folks are talking about it, and it's exactly what Robert's saying. It's not even looking at it from a, hey, we're going to try to make coin off of you or whatever. Right. It's just, we're just going to go after you, target it, and kill your organization.
So realistically speaking, how difficult would that be?
What do you mean?
And as far as what
To be
context?
successful, like let's say for example, I'm one of those bad actors that wants to perpetrate a cyber
hold on a second. I think you're on my list. No, go ahead.
Yeah.
So Mike, here, think about it this way.
Okay.
Right now, you could go out and sign up for an Amazon account and do AWS type of work, and it's called platform as a service.
Okay.
Guess what? These criminals that are out there, they've built their own cloud services, and they're selling them to anybody. And that's how easy it is. You just go out there and subscribe.
Yeah,
and
fraud as a service, DDoS as a service. You see that a lot in the gaming community. I don't know how many of you guys know this, but there's an entire VC community now built around fraud as a service, venture capitalists.
Oh, okay.
So malicious venture capitalists.
Sorry, I think I'm the only one here that didn't. I think I'm the only one here that didn't graduate college.
Oh, right. Well, if I put not anyway. I won't go into the next alphabet after C. No, all right. Anyway.
So use of digital means for nefarious or gain, personal gain, or some form of it. We're seeing companies, and we're seeing critical infrastructure being targeted, and from many different directions. So the whole we're not a target, trying to define a likelihood scale, all that stuff's out the window. It's now a Boolean of 0 or 1. You either are or you aren't, and the answer is you are. So you better prepare for it, and make sure you have things in place to be able to do early detection. Imagine if both you and Chris weren't able to detect it. How deep, how far, and what impact would that have been? Whew. So from a near miss standpoint, you guys were
wouldn't
successful.
have all this gray hair.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is that Go ahead.
You know, sorry, just one of the things I don't know, and this may just be the Cybersecurity for Dummies book. This may be that.
Did you read that?
I don't know.
Not quite yet. I haven't finished.
His
Page
dog ate
one.
it.
He's
No,
on
Are
page
you
no.
doing audio or are you
No,
reading it?
I'm on 76. I'm on page 76. Thank you, but I've been studying other things. Okay, I still have to keep up with physical security, by the way, even though it doesn't change as fast. But anyway, but no,
Hey,
seriously, though,
I argue that though with drones, it is changing pretty fast.
It is changing big
yeah,
time.
Drones are-
yeah,
yeah.
We
that's
got to
why I
give
say
you
that's
that.
that's why I say
Yeah.
that's a whole other
We're
podcast.
gonna-
Yeah. But anyway, go ahead.
No, so I mean, I guess one of the biggest takeaways for me, at least, from that whole conversation is to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong because I probably am. One of the biggest things that we should be focusing on is just straight up just cybersecurity hygiene, right? Just the simple, very simple cybersecurity awareness, how to look for the bad emails, hover over a link to make sure, you know what I mean? Those type
The
of things
phishing.
for everybody
You know what?
in the
You're back to my
everybody in
catalog
the
at the
organization.
But I want to add though, I think that's exactly it, right? So I think just like for those of you in military, PMCS, preventative maintenance checks and services, right? I mean, that's something that just needs to be done. I mean, you taking a shower every other day or daily, or and Chris's no, anyway.
I smell okay. Maybe that's why they don't want me to come back to
He
the
only
office.
takes a shower when I come to visit. No.
He doesn't run you out of the room.
Yeah.
They quickly approved his telework agreement.
Social distancing is his friend.
Yeah.
So,
But,
Rob, you're onto something there. So keep going.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
on the
sorry.
cyber hygiene side, I think there's cyber hygiene plus. And what I mean by that is we all deal with it. And this hopefully resonates with those information technology individuals that are not cyber professionals. The more complex your environment is, meaning the more expensive paperweights and interconnected applications and tools and everything
But
else.
the blinky lights are so cool.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The blinky lights are
That's why they want to be
ADD. One of the key things I did with the last organization I was in and the one prior to that is I ripped out half the technology. And the reason for that is because half of it was installed but not deployed. So they had it in place, but they hadn't changed anything. And then the other component to it is it was installed but partially deployed. So they weren't actually getting the extreme value out of it, yet they were paying the support cost for it. So in going in and kind of cleaning that out, what it did was it allowed us to find patient zero within probably under an hour of the entry point. We were able to literally shut down the network very quickly, like I said, and catch these guys with their pants down. So we had everything, and they couldn't gain access to it. But what it did post that, by clearing out all the noise, by clearing out all of the, legacy tools that were in the environment, we now created a very efficient network to where somebody, and it's going to happen, clicks on a link, right? A phishing link, email, where before it would take anywhere from, in our organization, 7 hours sometimes to find it. It took us 3 minutes now. So within 3 minutes, we knew when somebody clicked on a link, and we were able to mitigate, isolate, and prevent that from spreading anywhere else. But that was because there was thought and collaboration with the IT department. It wasn't just InfoSec doing it, right? So we basically expanded it to cyber deputies. So we got to the point where with 640 employees, we had an individual in our general services department click on a link, knew he made a mistake, reset his password before we even called him, and showed up in my office 30 minutes later to tell me exactly what happened. That's the kind of environment that you want to have. So, and again, it's not patting myself on the back. It took a year to a year and a half of just concerted effort and communication and education on what does InfoSec do. And the 2 individuals or the 1 or the 3, if you're lucky, aren't going to defend the entire organization. It takes everybody's involvement, right? And that was the other key thing with our event.
Think about, yeah. I was going to say, you bring up a really good point, because if you think about how many industries that have that same scenario that's kind of half baked, where you have something that's purchased, deployed, or half deployed, not fully implemented, and that can actually serve as a vector in to your systems and create more noise for you. And so, I'm with you. I pivot that idea is the fact that too much technology, adding too much to the equation, also really lowers your reliability as well. So not just your response times, but even the reliability of the systems. And when you start talking about operational technology, people say, well, we have to have monitoring, we have to do this, we have to add all this. And so you start stacking like a Jenga block, all these things. And it's like, trying to sift through everything can get very difficult. And then when there's a problem, can't really determine what it is or if there's a reliability issue. And so,
so your time to respond. I mean,
one of the things a term that I used to hear from another podcast from a few years ago was called minimal viable security. And, it's not the same for every organization, but there can be a prescribed level of minimal viable security. I think that's what is the next step. Julio, we got to get Congress on this. We need them to define what minimal viable security is.
He's got the backdoor channel.
That'll take like 30 years, guys.
Can we just let them? Can we just let them figure out reporting first?
No,
and then we can move on to the next thing.
Yeah, information sharing.
Information sharing.
Oh yeah.
Hey, but Rob, out of all that stuff that you said, I'm picking up on the one thing. It is, I like the specialty type deal, right? You need to have so every employee in a company is a soldier, right? So every soldier, right? Every soldier needs to be able to recognize what the enemy looks like outside of the gate or at the gate, right? To be able to let people know, hey, we have a problem over here. We need the specialist to come in and take a look at it. You need your EOD guys that can go in and search. You need your counterintelligence guys that are out there. So, I mean, that requires, in my mind, it requires education, right? And I think that might help the educators and the higher education people kind of divvy up how they're going to do this education, right? There's your basic education, and then you grow into having those specialties within cybersecurity. And you definitely want to have some offensive as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. And one misnomer in education, and it pisses me off because I've been an instructor in the military. I've been an instructor in payments industry. I've been, I've done this for a long time. Is once a year doing a annual security, video is not training. One of the programs I initiated at the organization I was in was Cyber Secure, and then put, the name of the organization or whatever it is that they do. So Cyber Secure blank. And we worked with our marketing department. We worked with our public relations department. We developed emails that we sent out that were based off of TLP, right? So it was basically green, amber, and red. And we would send out security information that the employees could use both at work and also to protect their families and to protect their loved ones and their friends. And that meant something to them. And I can't tell you how much positive feedback I got from all the different, business units and departments within the organization. But that's just the first step into getting people comfortable with, I do recognize security. I did recognize this phishing, and then they start to report. And yeah, initially we got flooded, but eventually kind of got into a rhythm, and they actually started kind of watching each other's backs. So it wasn't just always calling us. And that's kind of what you need to do. And it was consistent. We were not flooding them, but we were consistently reaching out and explaining to them, you know, that they're cyber deputies. It's not just, you know, the 3-4 people in InfoSec or the, you know, I think we had 40 something people in IT at the time. It's not just their responsibility. They're not going to fly in like superheroes and save you. You need to, you know, take care of your environment, right?
Hey, Rob.
So, yeah.
Right.
Question on that. It sounds like it was a successful initiative. Was that before or after an attack?
So it was before. I had started planting the seeds.
Okay.
We had the event, and I can't tell you how, but it wasn't phishing in nature. So it wasn't that anybody of the employees clicked something that caused something to happen. I can just tell you that. Post that, we went probably from, you know, I think we were in the 12 and a half range on clicks down to probably about 1.2% on average that somebody would actually click on a link. And I say this at every end of almost every brief that I've ever done or panel that I'm on: never waste a good crisis in order to prevent a bad crisis. Right? We had a good crisis.
That sounds familiar. Didn't I say that in a previous podcast? Just throw that out there.
Did you?
He did on the physical security side. I think.
Oh, fantastic!
We're making that comparison, right?
Got the frequency though, because that's what it is. Physical and digital security are no longer separate.
Yeah,
you know,
lots of parallels.
They are really integrated.
Physical cybersecurity convergence, baby.
Hey, there! I was wondering what he was going to say.
Yeah. So, Mike, you're going to appreciate this. One of the first things I did when we found out that we got hit is I called our affiliated, or not affiliated, but part of our organization's police department. Right. So this is 170 sworn officers. I called my FSO and let them know that we were under, you know, we had been hit by a cyber attack. But the first thing I said is, have any gates failed open? Do you still have access to your cameras? Can you still run patrols? Right. Public safety was number one. And that's for that organization. But are they still able to do their jobs? Yeah. And function. Right. And that is physical security. So we doubled up the patrols. You know, we happen to be the law enforcement agency that safeguarded the airport, you know, the adjacent airport. All of that continued to function and operate. But that was one of the, you know, on my checklist, that was one of the top things that we go into, because physical to me, and I've been writing up some scenarios for the Coast Guard around a escalating 5 series from AIS disruption to GPS spoofing to camera takeover to ransomware to physical, right? So that there's a kinetic event and it happens.
You are reminding me of numerous conversations that Chris and I have had, quite honestly. And awesome. I'll tell you, I gotta give him so much credit, because no, I mean,
Nick,
seriously. I mean,
what you want to say, Nick?
Just real quick. So Rob, real quick. You know, I heard you present about 2019. I think I heard you present.
Oh, okay.
On what had happened at that previous organization you were with, and one of the best things that I thought that I took away from it, because at the time I was just starting to break into the, you know, moving from that physical to the cyber side, combining it with the physical, you know, security training that I had from the past. But you talked a lot about so the different ICS on the emergency management side of things. So incident command system as opposed to industrial control system, right?
Correct.
But if you just take a couple of minutes, kind of talk about that, because I think that's part of what everybody struggles with too, is a bit of demystifying cybersecurity and how that's going to look like after the fact. So if you get a few minutes, just maybe talk about that and how ICS kind of fed into what you guys did after the fact.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up, Nick, because, you know, we stress so heavily in cyber on incident response plan. that we kind of sometimes forget about incident command, right? Meaning when you get hit, what do you do? Right? What's everybody's roles? What are their responsibilities? So what Nick is referring to is FEMA's NIMS ICS.
Yep.
So NIMS ICS, or Incident Command System, and you can go online and look it up, Google it, is trained to all law enforcement, first responders, fire, lifeguard. It's basically a system that was developed around kinetic events. When I was at the port, I was a new CISO, meaning I had just come onto the port. So I hadn't even been there very long, and all of this happened. And I had not had a chance. I was actually in mid-flight of updating my incident response plan, and I hadn't gone out and re-educated the port on how to deal with a cyber incident or a cyber event. Yeah, I had a lot of experience, and my first hire, who was a red teamer, had a ton of experience. But I can't be teaching people how to do cyber incident response while we're in the middle of an incident. So what I did was I called over to our DHS liaison with the police department that's attached to us and said, I need you to come over here and stand up the ICS. So the incident command system and the framework. And as soon as we did that, we turned chaos to controlled chaos. And that really, I've been pushing it. And again, Nick, I appreciate you bringing it up. ICS needs to be integrated and cyberized for, not just federal, state, and local and tribal, but for private sector as well. They can learn a lot from it. And it really, what it did was it allowed me to apply 640 employees, and I'm not exaggerating, to supporting the incident response effort. I had people that did landscape management that was, scanning laptops. I had our, BSAs going out and doing business impact analysis, instantly within 7 hours after the event to the different business units to say, how did this impact you? So we got some, actual intelligence on this event and didn't waste it. So the incident command system allowed me to not have to focus on getting everybody structured. It allowed them to understood what their role is, from purchasing to communications to information technology and it allowed for that command environment to be set up and handed off, by the way, because yeah, you can be a hero and try and run with no sleep for a week. You're going to fail, right? So you have to, as an incident commander, be able to hand that off. So the CTO and I kind of bounce that back and forth. So as I was running active investigations, he was then, working on, backup restoration and making sure that everybody got paid, right? So we actually made our payroll cycle. Even though we just gotten hit, we still made our payroll. So nobody had to worry about paying rent. Nobody had to worry about, putting food on the table. But the ICS is what allowed us to do that, because it allowed everybody to know what their role was, what they needed to do, and nobody was spinning around wondering, okay, how can I help? What can I do?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lifesaver.
That's amazing. Oh, go ahead, Marco.
No, I was just going to chime in and just say that the ISA, the Global Cyber Alliance, led by Megan Samford, she's put together the ICS for ICS, so Incident Command, based off FEMA for industrial control systems. So it has a 62443 tie into that. And so there is a exercise coming up at the S4 conference in 2022 that Dale Peterson puts on, Digital Bond. And so Megan and the team at GCA, her and Andre Restano, they've put an exercise together, but it's exactly that. It's going through the actual FEMA ICS and applying it for industrial control response. So
yeah, so IT, ICS, I've talked. So I've been working with the state of Pennsylvania, talking to their Public Utilities Commission, ties into DOE. I've been very fortunate. What I learned at the port, I've been able to kind of expand and work with a lot of the different critical infrastructure organizations and help. So that's what I love doing. I'm not out there to sell assessments. I'm not out there, trying to make a buck off of confusion, which I see a lot of out there. I'm really what works, what helps Mike, what helps Nick, what helps Marco, what helps Julio in all your different roles and responsibilities.
What, not me? Nobody gets
Yeah.
Sure,
Hey,
Chris.
Chris, you
You
don't need help.
know,
Chris, you
Yeah.
don't need help. You're good.
Well,
Chris
you know,
caused
you
it.
know-
He doesn't need it.
Chris is wallpaper.
Oh, great. Thanks, Robert.
Hey, Chris, you're the one
We're
that
off the
started it.
Christmas list, buddy.
Chris, hey, Chris, you know, I think you and I and kind of, the shadow chain that we have of CISOs, because I'm part of a CISOs roundtable out here. I have, we're both Chris and I are interconnected to a lot of CISOs, I think, out there, but it's shadow. And this, I think, gets back to the original comment of information sharing. Everybody, private sector, government, what have you. I can't tell you how many times the Louisiana school district got hit recently by ransomware. Somebody I happen to know called me at the port, personal friend of mine, and said, Louisiana just got hit. Here's the IOAs, here's the IOCs. I had my team go and look, no joke, 3 hours later, that same adversary that hit them swept us. We need to be doing that on the regular. I'm sorry, we just have to.
And I think we've seen that in actually we've seen that in our area where I think a while back we had about 10 or 12 Russian IP addresses that were trying to hit some areas, and we actually put that out on one of Marco's meetings, and actually was the physical security guy who was at the meeting, who ran over to their IT people and say, hey, are you guys aware of this? Make sure that, you guys are aware of it. And they actually went in and blacklisted those IP addresses.
That's exactly
and within hours, they were getting hit 1,000 times per minute or per hour from those IP addresses.
Boom.
Absolutely.
Left of boom. That's what we want.
So well, you know what, guys, this has been great. We've been at this for over an hour now. And
really?
Yes.
We could go all day. We could go all day.
I know we could. And Rob, we're definitely going to have you back. So make sure your calendar's clear.
All right. Hey, you got my bat phone. Yeah, you can get hold of me direct.
Yeah. I know. I got your number. So, I appreciate your coming on, and it's been great to have you as a guest.
Thank you.
I all the head nodding I've seen, even though there's people who weren't participating, as far as like vocally, but they were not. They're like, man, I'm learning something, and I'm hoping that all of our viewers, all 10 of them, actually learned something
13.
tonight, and I appreciate it. So, one final note: the opinions expressed during this recording are our own personal opinions and do not necessarily reflect our past, current, or future employers. So, we're all covered. So, anyways, y'all, I thank you all for having this great.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Hit the like button.
We'll catch you all next time on a future episode of Maritime Security Talk. And I'm Chris, and on behalf of Mike, Nick, Rob, who's a guest, and Julio and Marco, who is always on vacation.
Always in a hotel.
Always in a hotel.
Starting to make me wonder.
With bad.
Thank
with
you
bad
all,
bandwidth.
and I appreciate you guys, and have a great night.
Thank you, guys.